Welcome everybody from the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. My name's Scott. I'm joined today by Stephen, and today we're looking at the Eriksson-Penker diagrams. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yeah, that's right, Scott. This is an oldie but a goldie. It's been there in the tool for many years, and it performs a very useful business function. So let's get started and do a deep dive into the Eriksson-Penker diagram. As always, we start with our perspective, and in the top right-hand corner of the application, we see that I have the perspective data flows being set. I've been doing some work with data flows this morning, but we're going to look at some different diagrams now. Under the analysis perspective set, we can see the Eriksson-Penker model. We're going to click on that, and the tool changes its focus to that perspective. And we can see here there are a couple of sample diagrams in here. We're going to close that, and we're going to do things from first principles as always, so that the audience can see how to make a start on this and do it simply. They can always return to the builder page and inject models directly from those patterns. But let's make a start. We have to find a location for our model in our project tree. We conveniently have an analysis models package, which we've been using for a number of other diagrams in previous videos. And so we're going to create a package in here for our Eriksson-Penker diagram. So using the package icon in the browser toolbar, you simply select that, and we've got the opportunity to put a name in there. We'll call it Eriksson-Penker diagram customer onboarding. So we're going to look at this business process of onboarding a new customer for our urban parking system. So we'll click on that. Enterprise Architect creates the diagram for us, and we'll create the package. Now we'll create the diagram. A bit ahead of myself there.
Yep.
I choose the Eriksson-Penker extension, and we'll give that diagram the same name and say create diagram. You can see now that, as always, Enterprise Architect has given us a blank canvas to start our work, and the toolbox has changed to contain the elements, extensions, and the relationships necessary for us to model this diagram, modeling the onboarding process. So
what kind of situations might you use this type of diagram in, Stephen?
Well, as the package kind of describes, Scott, the analysis model is the name of the package, and that's what we're doing. We're kind of analyzing what a system looks like from a particular point of view. So you can see in the toolbox, it gives a bit of an indication. There are, things like processes and actors and goals, and a number of other things like information there. We've got a goal there, a business event, so a business rule. So there are lots of different aspects of the Penker diagram, the Eriksson-Penker diagram, that we can put in. So different modelers will do different things, but we're going to take a kind of a picture, an overview, I guess, of all the things that might be relevant to the process of onboarding a new potential customer. So the place to start is to create a start node. So we're going to put that start node onto the diagram there, and we'll give it a name. It's called new potential customer. So that's the arrival through some mechanism of a potential customer. It may have been a phone call through a call center. It may have been a web application. So the next thing we want to do is to put an activity process on to this diagram. So we're going to choose process there, and you can see there's a icon that looks like a chevron or a process. We're going to put that one on, and we'll give it a name, and it's going to be register account. We'll reshape this slightly smaller, and we'll put a connection to that start node. Now, you can see that Enterprise Architect has kind of conveniently put up some stereotype information about that particular flow. I don't want to show that in this diagram. I want to keep it quite simple for a business audience. So I'm going to go into the diagram properties, and I'm going to turn off the feature that says show stereotype labels. A really convenient thing to do. Sometimes when they're off, you might want to be looking at a more technical audience, informaticians or people who want to see that information, and you can simply turn it back on at will and without affecting the diagram. Now, as always, Scott, I encourage people when they're modeling to enter notes for the elements that they're putting in. So it's kind of obvious what register account is in a way, but let's put some extra information. Users provide their basic information, including name, contact details, etc. So this already starts to embellish the model and to give it some more meaning and semantics. So
but I'm sure if a new staff member started, some things that you might think are obvious might not be obvious to someone that's onboarded and starts using EA in a year's time. So the notes are always helpful, I assume.
Yeah, they are, Scott. And remember, we're telling a story. We're creating a narrative rather than just putting boxes on pages. And this is one of the things that separates Enterprise Architect from a general purpose drawing tool where you might see a box on a diagram that's printed in a document. But here we can see through the model information that it already allows us to start to understand the kind of things that are going to be needed, like a name, the contact details, address, and those things. So we'll put another process on here, and we'll call this one validate or verify identity. And again, we want some notes on that. So let's put some notes into that element, and let's make this one the same size. So using the convenient layout ribbon, I can multi-select the elements. The one with the stippled border, which is the one that I've got, selected here, and flick them between them. That will act as the template for the layout. And I'm going to say, use the alignment ribbon of the layout panel, and I'm going to say make same height and width, and then conveniently, let's line up their centers as well. So we've got that done. Let's put another process flow in here between these two processes, and you can see that starting to shape up to be a diagram. And one of the nice things about the Eriksson-Penker diagram is that we can put in all sorts of other business things like a goal. So what are our goals while we're doing this? And they may come from documents that exist inside the organization somewhere, and we could link to those as well if we wanted to. But the ability to put in a goal, we'll put it in as a class, and we'll give it a name, and it's acquire new customers. And this is a primary goal, obviously, when we're on onboarding. And again, we put in some notes there. The primary business objective, expanding the customer base through onboarding. This goal drives growth and market expansion for the service. And again, Scott, just in that little note, we're starting to see, the driver, starting to understand the things. And while this is just a note, we could take the opportunity to link these objects to other parts of our model, into our strategic model, like how does this goal, where does it come from? Did it come from some sort of strategy document? And we can always do that in Enterprise Architect. And remember, if we look in here, we have got strategic models in our browser. So we've got the opportunity to do that, put those, link it to other parts of the model. But let's do that now, and let's put a link in here to this, and we'll say that this thing is a dependency between that. Now, the model. What
do you actually mean when you say dependency?
Okay, so it just means it's a general purpose connection that allows us to say that there's some sort of relationship or dependency. The registered account depends upon that goal. So we don't want to do anything in the registered account without understanding what the goal is. So it's a very useful thing to do. And of course, we can put in other things like decisions, for example. So we could put in a decision into our model to say that something particular is going to happen. And if we look through our toolbox here, we'll look for something that looks like a decision. We've got process decision there. Let's pop it underneath this element, and let's call this verified. So there we come to a point in our process possibly where we're not sure whether the applicant has been verified or not. So let's just put that up there, and let's actually improve that a little bit by putting a question mark on there. And again, Scott, I always encourage people, and people don't often do this, but I would be putting a note in about that decision. So a critical decision point that determines whether customer passes the initial identification. identity verification, the gateway that moves customer to credit, body, or manual. So that's what's going on there. Let's put another connector into there, and on we go with the diagram. Now, there's all sorts of other things you can see in our toolbox. We've got information, resources, abstract, people, physical, business event, all sorts of different things, problem causes. So the Eriksson-Penker diagram has a very rich set of elements that can be put onto the diagram, including an actor. What I find is that when I'm typically doing a diagram with a particular focus, I may not use all of those elements at all. I might use some of them on a particular diagram and others on another type of diagram. So, Scott, I'm going to finish this diagram off, but I'll get you to perform some of your magic so we can move along and have a look at the completed diagram.
Well, Stephen, I've performed some editing magic, and now I can see our completed customer onboarding process. I can see that there's a credit check and a few different decision nodes and a few places where it ends. And also see a legend. Now, in the past, when we've used legends, we've associated it with things like authors or attributes, but this appears to be a legend based on what the elements are. So could you perhaps talk a little bit about how you developed that legend and how you got it to work?
Yeah, certainly, Scott. Adding color to a diagram is a very useful thing to do, but often people add color in a very ad hoc way. With the legends, we can color the diagram based on particular properties. So the color adds some meaning, but remember, it is not defined as part of most of the standards. For instance, the UML, the BPMN, Unified Modeling Language, the Business Process Model and Notation, and also these Eriksson-Penker diagrams don't define color as part of the framework or the language. So we have put a legend onto the diagram. I'm going to use the pan and zoom window here, Scott, just to move around the diagram a bit and make it a bit easier to see. So yes, you can see that goals are a particular color, the processes are a particular color, the business rule, and that's all being driven by this legend down here. Now, the legend is, as you say, based on the type of element that's in the diagram. And it kind of makes it easier. If you're looking for goals, you can see the goal at the top, and then you can look quickly around the diagram and say, look, there's another goal there without having to read the stereotype. So I didn't create that legend while we were performing the magic. I reused a legend that already existed, and I can show you that because up here in our urban parking system, we've got a bunch of libraries, and we've got checklist libraries, image asset libraries, and legend libraries. So we have an Eriksson-Penker legend defined there, and I can simply drag that onto the diagram to make that do all of that work. So, you know, quite a powerful thing there, and I can, you know, show that. I guess if you we'll make that selectable for the purposes of this, and I can go to the legend and I can say, look, don't apply the colors on the diagram, and you'll see now that it will go back to a vanilla default color. So let's apply that back again and save that, and you can see the colors are reapplied. I like to make these elements non-selectable because I don't really want a person going in here and doing that. So I can make that element not selectable.
That's great that you can reuse that diagram on different diagrams. I think one of the great things about Enterprise Architect is so much energy and effort has gone into reuse and being able to make the most of resources once you create them.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. So the legend can be used on multiple diagrams and applied with diagrams, but the color scheme will be universal for Eriksson-Penker diagrams. And I think you want that. You could change it if you wanted and create your own legend that is based on something else. But if you're basing it on the type of element in the Eriksson-Penker framework, then that's a useful thing to do. Let's just have a quick look around the diagram as well. We've got a new element here called a business rule. And again, if we look at our notes, we've got only applicants with a manual credit score of greater than 15 will be accepted as new customers. So some information about that business rule. We've got a prerequisite down here. Customers must have agreed to the privacy statement. So you can see what we're kind of fleshing out. We're telling a story, we're creating a narrative, we're getting people interested and we're getting their buy-in. Without that note on there, you know, there may not be any consideration of this privacy statement. The note being on there, it will trigger some conversation, some discussion from perhaps the privacy department. And so that gets the ball rolling in terms of making sure that everything's going right with this project. We don't want to wait for some customer complaint about our parking system for this to surface. We want to try and surface all these things as we go along. And you see here we've got some information, got vehicle registration, profile information, and credit and debit cards. And you can see, you know, we have that information there. So, you know, personal and account related details need to be created, maintain the customer. So there's lots of different information in there, and all of these elements have got the information. Again, the gateways have as well, or the decision points. So Scott, that's the Eriksson-Penker diagram. Like I said, it's been in the tool for a very long time, and there are many customers that use it as a starting point. Your initial question earlier in the discussion was a very good one. When would you use this? And the answer again is early on in the analysis phase, when you're looking at things and wanting to understand the processes that go on, the goals that need to be in place, the business rules that need to be applied, the information that's required, the decisions that are made about a particular thing. And of course, you could do this in a different model. You could have created this in business process model and notation, but the emphasis would be slightly different. And you can see from the toolbox there that there are a lot of other elements that you wouldn't find in a business process diagram.
And it's a nice way to bring together rules and decisions and goals and processes and put them all in the one place. So that's
exactly
great. Well, thanks, Stephen, once again for showing us the Eriksson-Penker diagrams and how it can be used for customer onboarding and being able to develop a customer onboarding process in Enterprise Architect. It was great to be able to see how we can reuse some of the legends and how easy it is to create a nice onboarding process and model it within Enterprise Architect. To our audience, as always, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube videos. We love your feedback. We love hearing suggestions for future videos. And it's great to have you join us and subscribe so you hear the latest and greatest from Sparx Systems. As always, Stephen, it's great to have your expertise and your wonderful diagramming capabilities on show every day. Learn a lot every day. So thanks very much for your time and effort today.
Always a pleasure to be sharing, Scott.